Does student loan forgiveness figure in your plan? Would you take executive action to achieve it?
It does figure in my plan. I've laid out in detail. For example, the legislation passed by the Democratic House calls for immediate $10,000 forgiveness of student loans. It's holding people up. They're in real trouble. They're having to make choices between paying their student loan and paying their rent, those kinds of decisions. It should be done immediately.
Really think about Joe Biden's words right there. You can see that he was just weaselly enough to give himself enough legroom so that when he didn't use an executive order to forgive student loan debt, he could turn around and say, oh no, my proposal, my plan, what I had was to tell Congress that they should do it. That was my plan. The promise I made was that somebody else would do something. The most honest thing Joe Biden ever said was when he said that he had full faith in the capitalist system of the United States, and he thought that our system was working fantastically. And all of his promises, all of the things he's done, and how he has failed to fulfill his campaign promises directly ties in to that reality. Joe Biden will lie just enough to give himself legroom to say that he wasn't lying in the first place. He will make all these promises and say that Congress is the one that's going to do it. But ultimately, Joe Biden, while promising change, as we remember, promised his donors nothing would change, is turning around and promising change that is dependent on a Congress that he knows is not going to do anything. Joe Biden is putting all of his weight in leaning on Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to do his dirty work and tell the American people that they don't actually want to do the good things that Joe Biden promised to do. This is the game Joe Biden's trying to run, and progressives in Congress are not having it. Especially Jamal Bowman, who put out this tweet setting a deadline for Joe Biden and Congress to do something about the student debt crisis and to forgive student debt. And this is what people should be fighting for. People should be fighting for student debt forgiveness because the truth is that our student debt system is ridiculous and it is rigged. And when I mean that, I mean it is rigged to make a profit specifically for the companies that manage federally insured student loans. And let's be very clear, right? The government is loaning this money to students so that they can get an education. Then these private companies are coming in, being middlemen, right? So that they can make a profit off of these government debts. And so let's have a talk about this debt really quickly. What is the theory of interest rates? Because why are there interest rates on these student loans in the first place? The whole theory of interest rates is that it is a payment that is extra, which is supposed to be reflective of the risk that the lender is taking on, that the person borrowing the money might default. That is supposed to be built into the interest rate. Except you can't default on the student loans. It's notoriously difficult to get student loans removed if you go bankrupt. Now, he's pointing fingers and he's saying that Congress is the one that is responsible, but he has the power to do it through executive order. And yet, once again, he lies and says that he doesn't have the power to do it through executive order, despite the fact that they explicitly have the authority, the president does, to negotiate and renegotiate settlements for student loan payments, which includes reducing the amount and forgiving it altogether. This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to stay up to date with my content. You can also catch me on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time with my show Galaxy Brain.